なんで五条家と全員家が仲悪いか知ってる？そん時当主同士がね、御前試合で本気でやり合って両方死んだの。僕と同じ陸眼持ちの無加減呪術使い。ちなみに相手の術式は恵と同じ。
特殊な影棒術。
僕の言いたいことわかる？
悪い。いただい。
見せてくれたな、伏黒恵。
This episode contains story content from the manga of Jujutsu Kaisen. Anyone that continues on from this point is doing so at their own risk. You have been warned. The need for strength can be born from many things: freedom, peace, or even security. However, the desire for strength is what bears the ripest fruit. Those who challenge themselves and desire strength are referred to as the strongest. But you do not desire strength nor a challenge. This is the terrible art of self-limitation.
Megumi Fushiguro, a child prodigy blessed with a technique that can surpass the strongest sorcerer of the modern day. Although the young prodigy does not see the latent power of his technique, there are those who can see it. However, for you to fully understand the scope of Megumi's potential, you must first understand the stature of those that can perceive it. It is said that when Satoru Gojo was born, the balance of the world had shifted to match his arrival. Cursed spirits had grown stronger due to Gojo's strength, and soon enough, Jujutsu sorcerers would grow weaker because of it. During Satoru's teen years, he had came into contact with the ghost of the Zenin clan, Toji Zenin, now known as Toji Fushiguro. In their first confrontation, Toji was able to best the Six Eyes, as well as the Limitless, leaving Satoru at death's doors, effectively forcing the young Six Eyes user to evolve and surpass his current level of strength to become the strongest of the modern era. Now, fully awakening the true potential of the Limitless and the Six Eyes, Gojo challenged the sorcerer killer one last time to settle the score.
天上天下唯我独尊。
挙式、紫。
With his dying breath, Toji entrusts Gojo with his son Megumi, hoping that Gojo will be able to cultivate Megumi's immense potential.
強くなってよ。僕に置いていかれないくらい。
There are two instances that Gojo alludes to Megumi's dormant strength. The first being the introduction to this episode. To be more specific, the story he tells Megumi and the point he's trying to get across to him. I encourage you to go rewatch the intro to this episode when you get the chance. It should make a little bit more sense now that you have a little more context, but I digress. The latter instance being when him and Megumi are training. Gojo points out to Megumi that his skill and potential are more than likely higher than Yuji's. The only thing he's missing is the mentality to go along with his strength. Gojo also makes sure to mention to Megumi, if he keeps relying on his trump card, he can forget about becoming as strong as him, let alone becoming as strong as Nanami.
And with this instance specifically, his teacher's words began to ring in his mind. When he found himself against an opponent he was ready to throw his life away for. However, it was another's words that would push the young prodigy to dig even deeper. Throughout heaven and earth, he alone is the honored one. Only his pleasure and displeasure exist. Eating when he wants, toying with whatever amuses him, and killing whoever is in his way. The king of curses, Ryomen Sukuna, is more akin to a calamity than he is a human being. 1,000 years ago in the golden age of Jujutsu, Ryomen Sukuna reigned supreme as the world's strongest. Sorcerers far and wide would come to challenge the king of curses to see what lies beyond strength, only to be met with the king's overwhelming sense of self.
領域展開福間水氏分かってなおくだらんな群れとしての人間群れとしての呪い寄り合いで自らの価値を測るから皆弱く矮小になっていく打算も計画もなく手当たり次第未来も死も金繰り捨ててな理想をつかみ取る上お前にはそれが足りている
Prompting Jujutsu sorcerers to grow stronger in an attempt to match his oppressive presence. However, the king was not interested in finding someone to match him. No, his passion lied in living by his own accord for as long as he could, even if it meant transcending the ages.
フーガ
With his reincarnation into the modern era, Sukuna intended to continue his malevolent reign as history's strongest, until the trump card of the Zenin clan had entered his line of sight.
死ぬなお前にはやってもらわねばならんことがある
Heeding the honored one's words of caution and lamenting the king's disappointment, the child prodigy achieves the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery.
領域展開
Now you may be wondering why I decided to go into so much detail about just one moment. Prior to the opening of his domain, Megumi is not really able to see his own potential. Furthermore, Megumi had a myriad of resources, albeit with the help of Gojo, to understand his technique and broaden his interpretation of it. If Megumi so desired, he could have gotten access to records of previous users of the Ten Shadows and how they used the technique. But this lack of desire to improve on his inherited technique is one of the main contributing factors to Megumi's stagnant power. The blueprint has already been laid for him. All he must do now is follow it. Megumi has everything he needs to become the next honored one after Satoru Gojo. He has a strong foundation of Jujutsu that allows him to figure out his opponent's technique. A technique that can rival the Six Eyes and the Limitless. In the domain, even if it's incomplete at the moment, it has the groundwork to become the most refined domain in Jujutsu history.
Unfortunately, by the time the young prodigy began to act upon his potential, it was already too late. Damned by fate or by God, another saw what Fushiguro could not and planned to seize it for himself. It is understood in the world of Jujutsu that having a strong sense of self and a complete disregard for others is what will lead you down the path to becoming the strongest. Megumi's selfless and self-sacrificial approach to Jujutsu has finally caught up with him, and it will now cost him everything.
Now for a rebirth. Behold. With the king of curses taking root within Fushiguro's body, the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer has been born. Because of the full realization of Megumi's potential, history is forced to repeat itself. The sorcerers of the modern era must now grow stronger to meet the fallen one's strength once again.
In this portion of the episode, I want to examine Sukuna's usage of the Ten Shadows compared to Megumi's. Right off the bat, Sukuna is able to create far stronger totalities than Megumi. For example, Sukuna's two totalities for Nue. The first Nue totality with the Great Serpent is able to tower over skyscrapers and even damage Maki's enemy. The second one, Merged Beast Agito, which is comprised of the Great Serpent, Morin Tiger, and Round Deer. This abomination is capable of fighting alongside the Divine General himself, as well as being able to use reverse curse technique because of the Round Deer. Now, for this next point, I want to preface, I do think Megumi's usage of the 10 shadows was very crafty. However, I believe Megumi used it in this way because he himself and his Shikigami did not have the power to fight up close with his opponents consistently. Sukuna, on the other hand, has the power to pressure his opponents up close, while still using the 10 shadows in a crafty and resourceful manner. The best example of this is in his fight with Gojo. In their fight, Sukuna is slipping in and out of not only his shadow, but Gojo's to catch him off guard. And he's also consistently keeping Gojo guessing on what his next move is going to be, while still keeping the pressure on Gojo up close with Agito and Mahoraga. Or even in his fight with Yorzu, he just straight up swaps places with Mahoraga, which leads me to my final point. Sukuna's ability to use Shikigami's techniques without fully summoning them. This has to be the greatest cursed energy efficiency within the series, because Gojo even mentions it himself. To do something on that level would take someone of his skill or his technique with cursed energy, or not even technique, just his level of finesse with cursed energy to be able to pull something like that off. Just being able to summon Mahoraga's wheel and act as the medium for adaptation instead of Mahoraga himself is absolute insanity. And I haven't even mentioned Sukuna being able to mimic piercing blood by just using Max Elephant's water without fully summoning it. Or him being able to have Mahoraga learn Cleave and Dismantle and improve upon his technique. I really hope you're starting to see how far Megumi could have gone. Now this next point is a bonus point, but I still want to include it to illustrate how much Megumi's mindset and over-reliance on Mahoraga really held him back. Now I'm sure you remember in Gojo's conversation with Megumi, he implies that the 10 Shadows is capable of rivaling the 6 Eyes and the Limitless. However, Megumi doesn't think this is the case, because he believes that the previous clan head used Mahoraga to take himself out, as well as the head of the Gojo clan. Which may be the case, but the Zenin clan head still could have been on the same level of the head of the Gojo clan without using Mahoraga. As shown with Sukuna's usage of Totality, the 10 Shadows is capable of creating Shikigamis on the same level of the Divine General. Again, I want to reiterate, the 10 Shadows is capable of creating Shikigami through Totality that is able to rival or at least compete with the Divine General physically. But that's not really what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is the Round Deer. The Round Deer is capable of using RCT, but there's a catch to its RCT. Its reverse curse technique is capable of neutralizing curse techniques. So hypothetically, if a 10 Shadows user is able to use its RCT without actually summoning the Round Deer, it could possibly be able to neutralize the Limitless barrier, essentially neutralizing half of the Limitless. If the Limitless barrier isn't up and blue isn't effective, if that 6 Eyes user doesn't know red or hollow purple, there's nothing they can do to defeat that 10 Shadows user. Especially if they don't have a domain, because now they're in a situation where the barrier isn't up and one of their techniques doesn't even work. Now they might have to fight up against a Totality, not necessarily Agito, but something comprised of Piercing Ox, Morn Tiger, Divine Dogs, or Max, something crazy. So, because again, Sukuna showed us that a Totality of that level that's able to compete with the Divine General physically is possible. And really, again, it really sucks seeing that Megumi, his mindset and him relying so much on Mahoraga being the end-all be-all of the technique in his mind, really and truly held him back from reaching the heights of Satoru Gojo.
However, I am afraid that there is no longer a place for Fushiguro in the world of Jujutsu. The king has shown us everything the young prodigy had to offer. The only thing that remains is a wasted treasure.